Welcome everyone. Hopefully I know there's a few faces on Zoom, a few faces that I recognise, a few new faces, so welcome to Yoga Cooler Live. And welcome to those of you joining us on our Facebook Live page as well. So if you are new to Cooler, or you're new to me and my classes, my name's Helen. I teach Ashtanga and Hatha on a Tuesday and a Thursday for Yoga Cooler. And one of my favourite things to do in my Hatha class is the moon salutations. So Ashtanga, and my main practice is Ashtanga, is a really dynamic, really physical practice. And it's always practiced quite traditionally. So when it's a moon, a full moon, or a new moon, so a moon day, we don't practice the Ashtanga sequence because it's quite strong and the energy levels tend to be a little bit different. Some people feel it, some people don't. So the idea of the moon sequence, which was designed by an American guy called Matthew Sweeney, is to kind of offer you a practice that's a little bit more grounding, a little bit more passive, a little bit more yielding. And the moon salutations are the beginning of that practice. And for me, it's an absolutely beautiful way to start the day. So if I'm not choosing to practice Ashtanga, and I don't practice Ashtanga every day now, then I'll use quite often the moon salutation at the beginning of the practice, just so that I can get warm. So it is a kind of a warm up, but also because you can really feel this connection to the earth. So that's what this little Facebook Live and Zoom Live is going to be about today. I'm going to teach you the moon salutation A. We're going to do a lot of repetition. We'll look at each component part first, and then we'll do some repetition of the practice. So it might be today you're just watching. I know some people just want to tune in and kind of have a watch. But if you're up for a practice and you've got your space set up and you feel nice and comfortable in that space and you're wearing nice comfy clothes, then do feel free to join me, and we'll by the end of the little kind of tutorial, we'll hopefully have this tool, this lovely little tool of the moon salute to take away and into our own practice, because you know there might be lots of different reasons why you can't join in a class online. It might be that you only have a little bit of pocket time at the beginning of your day to do your practice, and for me that's when the moon sequence and the moon vinyasas in particular really come into their own, because they're just, well, you'll see by the end of this, hopefully it should make you feel really nice and calm, really nice and grounded. And we'll end our practice today as well with a little bit of a chill out Shavasana. So when you're ready, and do just take a moment or two to check that the space around you is safe and you feel comfortable to practice. Obviously all the kind of usual notes that go with a practice at home stand, so do make sure you're looking after yourself. If there's anything you feel like you prefer not to do in the practice, then do feel free to leave it out. You can always, of course, as I say, just watch if you wanted to, and then maybe join in later on. And if you are working with any injuries, if there's anything that might kind of have an impact on your practice, do just be really careful and practice really safely. So we're going to start at the back of our mats, and we're going to come to a comfortable kneeling position. So if you want to make your way to the back of the mat so you're facing forwards. So just here, because the moon salute, we go forwards to begin with and over. And just take your time to make sure that that's a nice comfy position. So we want the knees to be a little bit wider than the hips, so that we can settle into the shape. I'm mindful that this sometimes is a comfortable position for everyone. So if you do feel like you want some padding underneath the ankles, underneath the legs to support you, then you can. And then I want you just to take a few moments with the hands resting wherever feels comfortable, the shoulders nice and soft. Maybe the eyes closed, or perhaps you're looking down to the space just in front of you. And we're going to take some nice long breaths. So this is a really nice way to start your own home practice. Just a few moments to connect with a deeper breath, a little bit more of a controlled breath, and just some chance to kind of check in with how you're feeling. So as you start to lengthen the breath, you'll maybe feel, particularly if you're resting like I am, your hands near the belly, it feels quite comforting for me that. You'll start to perhaps feel the movement of the breath in the belly. And that's a good indicator that we're starting to make our breath nice and deep. And as you carry on taking these nice full and slow, very careful breaths, I want you to really bring your awareness to the shoulders and let them drop, let them melt away from the ear. So the back is beginning to lengthen as we find that dropping of the shoulders. We automatically start to just find some nice posture. So we're beginning now to lift up and lengthen through the spine, finding that nice long spine. And finding a little bit of softness around the face. So maybe just check in if you're holding any tension around the jaw. Just let the jaw relax. Maybe you can check you're not holding tension around the eyes, around the forehead. Just let them soften. And those nice quiet breaths, those long slow breaths, really just helping us to find that connection that the moon salute really kind of fosters with the earth. So we're really dropping down into the space. And this is the first of about 8 parts to the moon salute. And we move from this position into a stretch. So we're nice and comfy at the back of the mat. We're nice and tall through the spine. We can open the eyes now. And with an inhale, we're going to just simply lift the arms up above the head. So we're going wide with the arms because we want to find nice space around the shoulders and want to just check. So as we lift up, sometimes there's a tendency to lift the shoulders up around the ears. Just be mindful that you're letting the shoulders drop down. And this widening of the arms really helps to support that. We're still lifting up through the back of the body, so the spine's nice and long. And just notice if you're starting to lift these bottom ribs. We want to feel as though those ribs are just knitting in slightly, so we're really extending the spine. And this is the second position in the salute. And from here, so nice and slow kind of breaking down of the sequence, we're going to bring the hands down to the floor. And then we're just going to slide the hands forward. So you might not come all the way down, so it will depend on your flexibility. But we want to feel as though we're dropping down into that space between the knees, so the belly can rest there. And then you can begin to drop the head down, but we're keeping the arms quite active. So we're pressing the hands into the floor. We're really lifting up through the elbows. And there's that real sense of space and length through the armpits, through the side of the body. So this is our third part of the sequence. So from here, we're going to keep those hands pressing in and we're going to rise up. So we're lifting the seat away from the feet. A nice little rhyme there. And then we come to our tabletop, or you might have heard this called cat. With this position, the toes are together from that seated position. We want to just separate the toes. So the toes are lengthening away from each other and they're level now with the knees. So we're into our full tabletop and the toes can relax. So here in tabletop, again, just taking our time to kind of look at the alignment in each element of the moon salute before we put it together. We want to feel a little bit of core engagement because we want to feel nice and strong through the belly, and that helps to release the lower back. And we want to have the shoulders stacked just about over the wrists, but if it does feel better for you to have the hands a little bit further forward, you can always do that. And what we're doing is we're holding in these different elements of the posture and just finding that shape. So we're kind of sketching out an image, a sense of the shape of the posture and finding that alignment. So we're building our muscle memory. So when we build it into the sequence and we use repetition, then we'll find our good alignment and we'll be safe in the pose. So from our cat position, we move into our downward dog. So for downward dog, we took the toes, the feet are in the right position now. We're going to press into the hands, lift the knees off the mat. There's a natural tendency to walk the feet just a little bit further forwards, and you can go with that because that will take you into a position that feels good. So in our downward facing dog, we're lifting the hips nice and high. We're really pressing the hands firmly into the mat so that we've got really nice, strong, straight arms. Now, if you notice here, if you're newer to yoga, if you maybe do a lot of cardio work, you might notice that the back of the body's quite tight. You can always bend the knees in down dog so that you can release the lower back, release the hamstrings, and that sometimes just allows you to relax a little bit more. Now, I'm lifting my head so that I can turn and look at you, which is not good for your alignment. I don't want you to do that. I want you now just to let your head relax. I imagine most of you let that happen anyway, but we're just going to take a moment to maybe shake through the head to release, maybe a little bit of a tuck of the chin towards the chest, so there's length through the neck. And then from here, we drop our way down to the floor. So we're coming back into that tabletop position. Well done, everyone. It was a really long hold in down dog, and it's a strong pose, so well done. We're going to find that cat position once again. And as we come down from that down dog position into this cat, we're going to lower the belly. So you'll notice that when we move through the sequence with the breath. And we lift the gaze just slowly. So a lot of you, if you've been to Hatha classes with me, you'll be really familiar with the cat-cow movement. It's just a one repetition at the end of our down dog. And this is the first bit. So we're starting to open the throat, lifting the gaze just to a comfortable position, keeping the hands nice and strong, the arms nice and strong. And then we reverse that movement, so it's slow. So start with the tailbone. Start with thinking the tailbone drawing down, and feel that ripple through the spine. And then the head comes down towards the floor. So we're lengthening the crown of the head down towards the floor, the chin tucking in. So you're really starting to round and arch through the back. So if you imagine that really nice stretch that cats often do, it kind of looks a lot like that, feels a lot like that, I imagine. And then we come back to a neutral position. So we're just going to flatten out the back, lengthen through the spine. And again, we're kind of building up that muscle memory of our tabletop position. And then we bring ourselves back down. So there's a really nice kind of circle through the moon sequence. We bring the toes together, take the knees nice and wide, and we drop the seat down to the heels to release our way down to the floor and into child's pose. And as we come to the end part of the sequence, we can soften through the arms now, because this is a rest. So it's a really slow build into a down dog, and then a lowering down and back into our child's pose, this little kind of cave where we can just hide away for a few short breaths. So what we're going to do now, we've looked at each element of the sequence, is we're going to put it together as a flow with the breath. And I'm going to go nice and slowly first, and we'll keep a steady pace. If you do feel like actually it's going a little bit too quick for you, you can always take some breaks. So we're going to come back into our start position. So walking the hands back, so we're kneeling at the back of the mat. The knees are wide, so we can soften our way down into that position. And let's find our breath now. So as you inhale, extend. Remember, we're keeping the shoulders nice and soft away from the ears. As you breathe out, so notice how slow the breath needs to be, because it matches each part of the movement. We slide the hands forwards. There's a moment where we pause with the head drawing down. It might not touch the floor. We keep the hands engaged. We breathe in and lift up onto hands and knees. And during that breath, we're separating the feet. So we're ready to move from our tabletop into our down dog, tucking the toes and lifting the knees. And again, just find that shape. So we pause in the sequence for around 5 to 8 breaths. So we'll not hold quite so long. We don't have a long time in the session today. And I'd like us to do quite a few repetitions, then you can really embed the sequence. But we will just take that nice stretch out. Remember, it might be with bent knees. Let's take one more inhale here. Now follow the breath here. So as you exhale, slowly releasing the knees down, releasing the toes, and we're following the in breath into our cat stretch. So we're lifting. We breathe out and curve our way through the spine, pressing the hands firmly into the floor, arching through the back, that really nice cat stretch. Come back to tabletop shape before you make your way down. On an exhale into your child's pose. This child's pose, this return to child's pose, is a softening, so the elbows can bend. You might even choose to stack the hands so that you're resting the forehead. If you don't manage to get the forehead to the floor, it's nice to have a place to rest. It might be like a blanket. When you get used to the sequence, you can introduce some props. So we're going to go again, and we're going to start to build up a little bit more pace. So we're going to breathe in, coming up to that kneeling position, and we'll use that in-breath to find our lift. So one breath in to extend, really find that lift through the heart. Exhaling, sliding the hands forwards. It's a soft, careful movement, but we keep the hands engaged. Inhale up to our tabletop. And exhale into down dog. And let's just take a breath or two to find our good alignment, making sure we know what feels good for us, remembering it might be with a bent knee. Good. And then again, just notice the breath. So pause for a moment, breathing in. And as you breathe out, dropping the knees down. And as you do, release the toes. As you breathe in, lift the gaze. Find that opening through the throat. Exhaling, curving through the spine. Inhaling, finding your long spine in tabletop. And exhaling all the way down into that soft return to our child's pose, nice and gentle. So we're going to go again. Just keep building the memory of the sequence. So we're going to come back to our kneeling position. Taking an inhale, lifting through the side of the belly, lifting through fingertips. Exhaling to come forward. Inhale up onto hands and knees, splitting the feet, tucking the toes under, and inhaling down facing dog. Settle into the shape. Let it relax, let it release. Let the head be heavy. And then dropping the knees down. Inhaling to lift up, open through the throat.
No, Alfred.
Exhaling, curving through the spine. I'm going to come and mute us in a moment. Inhale, come back to our flat back position. And exhaling, sinking down. And we'll pause at the end of the movement as we return to that really lovely, soft child's pose. So let's find the sequence once again. You should be feeling a little bit of heat in the body now as we're moving with the breath. So coming up to kneeling, inhaling, extend through the arms, reach the fingertips up. Exhale, folding forward, softening down into that child's pose, hands active. Inhale, separating the feet as you come up to cat. And moving your way into down dog on the out breath. So I'm going to start to just say a little less as we move through the next few repetitions so that you can start to really feel your way through it for yourself. Going to drop our way down and take an inhale to lift. Exhaling, rounding through the spine. Inhale to that tabletop. And exhale, returning to our child's pose, softening and releasing down. So as you work with the sequence on your own, you might count the breath here, maybe holding for 3 to 5 breaths. On your inhale, come up. The in-breath continues with the lift of the arms. Exhale, sliding the hands forward. Inhale, onto hands and knees. And exhaling into down dog. Again, as you're working with the sequence in your own practice, you might count the breath here, building up perhaps to a hold of 8 breaths. We'll just stay for one more inhale. Exhale, really slowly lowering down. Inhale, lift the gaze. Exhale, round through the spine. Inhale to our tabletop. And exhale to child's pose. Noticing the breath as it moves, perhaps noticing it a little bit in the back of the body, the rib cage, just expanding as we take those nice slow breaths. Ready to come up on our inhale. Again, it's one breath to lift the arms high, bottom ribs knitting in. Exhale, sliding forward. Inhale, onto hands and knees. Exhale to down dog. And breathe. Letting the body just rest in the pose as much as you can. Let's work in the arms, let's work in the legs, so the head's heavy and soft. Breathing in. Breathing out to drop the knees. Breathing in to lift the gaze. Breathing out, chin towards the chest. Round through the spine. Back to our tabletop. And slowly returning to our child's pose. Let's take 3 breaths. We're going to do one more and then we're just going to add in an extra little element first, you might want it. So this next one, let's try and see if we can really just find the breath. So as you inhale, come up. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale, down dog. Full and slow breaths. Every out breath, really allowing yourself to relax and rest. Inhale. Exhale, down to hands and knees. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. And exhale. So remember, our return to child's pose is rest. It's supportive. The arms can bend, the hands can be heavy, soft. And then just making your way when you're ready back to our kneeling position. So we've time just to have a look at the extra element that we add in for the salute B. So what we've just done is a salute A. And that really is the one that I use the most in my practice and in my teaching, because it's hopefully you've got that sense of this real kind of grounding feeling that we get through the sequence, really quite meditative once you know it. The extra element is a lunge, which is not for everyone. So you can, if you prefer, you can just miss this bit out as we work. But it's nice just to show you how you can introduce that if you want to go a little bit deeper into the practice. So it's exactly the same as what we've just done. But when we come into our down dog, we come into a lunge, into what we call our Ardha Chandrasana, or our half moon. And then we will follow the same sequence from there. So I'll add it in, but if you prefer not to do it, you can just stay in down dog or come back into a tabletop position if you prefer. So the same beginning, we rise up with an in breath. So it's good just to get that repetition again, just to embed the sequence. We exhale, coming forward. We inhale to rise up into our tabletop. And we exhale into our down dog. So remember, you might just be waiting here if that feels better. Or what we're going to do is bring the left foot. So in the moon sequence, we start on the left side. It's a little bit more grounding. So we bring the left foot forward. So you might give it a little bit of a helping hand. And we bring the right knee down. So it's a really supportive variation of what looks a lot like our warrior in the Ashtanga sun salutes. So we breathe in and lift the arms up. You might just be staying here. Some people like to bring it into that full crescent moon shape, but that's quite strong across the hips, so you might choose not to do that. And it's a breath or two here, as long as you'd like. I sometimes, if I do this, will hold it for a little while, because it's a nice stretch in the hips. And then we bring the hands down. So here you want to place the hands flat first before you tuck the right toes under and press and lift the right knee, and then we can slide that left foot back. So we come back into down dog, ready for the second side. So we're looking forwards and we bring the right foot, it's the Ashtanga teacher in me, and drop the left knee down. So you find your balance first before you come up, and it might be that you just wait in this lunge position, or you can extend the arms. Maybe extending into that crescent moon shape, but keep the shoulders nice and soft. And then exhaling, let the hands just float down. Again, root the hands first before you move, tucking that back toe under, lifting the back knee, and beginning to slide that right foot back into your down dog. Just taking a little move, perhaps in your down dog, because sometimes that lunge can be quite strong around the hips. You might just want to pedal the legs to release it. And then just wait for a breath or two in stillness. So we hold our down dog once again at the end of those lunges. And then we'll drop our way down on our breath out. We breathe in as we lift, so now it's exactly the same as before. Exhale, rounding through the spine. This should feel really nice and familiar now. Inhale to our flat back position. And exhaling, returning to that soft child's pose. Excuse me, where we can rest and release. So it's a little bit more dynamic, adding in the extra layer. You can choose to use that in the full moon sequence. We use about 7 repetitions of each of them. It does become a really nice meditative movement. So we're going to just come all the way back up to our kneeling position when we're ready. We're going to just let the shoulders settle. And now if this is feeling quite a challenge, sometimes it does feel like we've been here for quite a while, we're going to swing the legs out from under us. We're going to take 5 nice long breaths in our seated meditation before we just take a few moments to rest. You've done a lot of repetitions, so we're going to take our Shavasana because we've been to. So taking a few breaths just to let it settle. And whenever you're practicing at home on your own, it's a really good idea. Sometimes it's very easy to miss out the end part of the practice because we're like, oh, I've got to go to work, got to go and grab a shower. But give yourself at least 5 minutes just to let the practice settle. So let the shoulders relax, let the hands rest onto the knees, maybe into the lap. We take 5 full breaths together. So breathing in, taking the air in through the nose. Maybe just noticing the pause at the end of the breath before exhaling, softening. Inhale. And exhale. Inhale. Exhale, really allow yourself to start to soften, completely relax. One more time, breathing in. And breathing out. And sometimes that will be how I end my practice, just in a seated meditation, particularly if I'm practicing early in the day and I know I've got to go to work. But sometimes I like to come into constructive rest. So I'm going to take you down into constructive rest for the last part of the practice today. So you're just wiggling your way into the middle of the mat so that there's space for you to lie back. And it might be that you want a cushion or a pillow for the head. If that feels better for you. You might be grabbing an extra layer or a blanket. It's quite nice and warm today, but the body temperature soon drops. And we curve our way down, so the knees are bent and the feet stay rooted to the floor. We're using the hands just to help us kind of slide carefully down. And then as you plant the head, the shoulders, and keep the gaze up so the neck's nice and long, just want to step the feet a little bit closer to the seat. So in a constructive rest, the whole of the back and the shoulders, the head, the pelvis is fully rested. And the legs feel almost like they're just stacking. So there's no real effort to hold the legs in place. And it might be that you want to kind of just play with where you want to rest the feet to find that. And then just bring your attention for a moment to the space around the belly and the space around the lower back. So just feel as you breathe out that there's that real sense of heaviness as the pelvis lands. There's this real sense of softness as you drop down into the space. Taking a few slow breaths where the exhale is out through the mouth. And we're really allowing ourselves to completely relax. Let the hands now just rest wherever feels good for you. Let the eyes gently close. And if you are practicing at home and developing a self-practice, it's really nice to kind of set yourself a little timer, or maybe have a piece of music that lasts as long as you want to stay in your Shavasana, so that you can just end the practice in a really calm way. And when we come out of our rest, and it might be that you want to stay here for a little bit longer, and do take that time if you've got it. If you're coming out of the rest, we're going to just let the knees roll over to the side and let the body follow. So we just draw ourselves over onto the side of the body. And we can make our way up from here. So just carefully drawing ourselves up to a seated position. And take a moment just to come to from your rest. Sometimes you can feel a little bit lightheaded as you come back up. So a moment in a seated position. I'm going to bring my hands to rest in prayer. It's the way that I quite like to end the practice, quite traditional Ashtanga ends the practice with the salutation of Namaste. And thank you very much, everyone, for joining me. I'm running a pop-up that's based on a lot of the elements of the moon sequence on Saturday at 3:30. So if you fancy joining me on Yoga Cooler Live, I'll be there. It'd be nice to see you. And we'll use that moon salutation, so you'll get another chance to really enjoy that meditative element of the practice. Have a fabulous day. Thank you. Take care.